start the recording. I'm going to broadcast and then I'll let you know.
As long as you're seeing me, that's
I can see you. You're good to go.
awesome. All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. This is Gaynel Watson, your final speaker for today. And I didn't want it to be too heavy, so don't think that I have slides. I have no slides deliberately for this reason. So my speech, my little presentation to you will be on leadership and influence in the age of technology. Now, I have background in IT, but I won't be techie today. I'll be more focused on the soft skills because we realize that we're in an age of technology. Things are moving very quickly, and sometimes the human element gets left behind. So we're going to focus on how it is that we can still lead without having to worry about the fast pace of technology leaving things behind. Now, I'll start with a famous quote from the world-renowned leadership guru, Mr. John C. Maxwell. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, when we mean everything, we mean profitability, we mean sales, we mean marketing, everything that you can think about rises and falls on leadership. That's how important it is. Now, of course, John Maxwell, he should know a thing or two about leadership because he's written over 100 books as a New York best-selling author. And when we look across industries, disciplines, and fields, leadership is so important, even in the tech field. Because when we look at the fact, we can think about it in everyday life. Say you're a football coach. When the team does well, you get all the praise. But at the same time, if the team doesn't do well, you will also get the blame, even lose your job, as we've been seeing with a lot of the Premier League teams recently, right? So even though the football coach isn't doing the actual playing himself or herself, as the case may be, he accepted the job on the basis, on the premise that with all these years of experience in the football coaching fraternity, he is confident or she can direct and guide these players to sustained and consistent victories. So this confidence that we speak about, that he's able to do this, it manifests itself in practical and tangible ways only by way of influence. So we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about influence, right? Now, even though we started the talk on the example of the football coach, because I know we have a lot of football lovers here, right? Now, my focus is really going to be on the field of technology. And from the start of the day, we got a lot of information on AI, robotics, all of these things that are so important and so critical to our day-to-day lives today. Now, what we realize is that good leadership in the tech industry and how it influences the goals of organizations. So whether you're entrepreneurs or you're working for somebody, profitability, the bottom line is going to be important because we live in this fast-paced world where change is the only constant. And technology, as we all know, is always on the move. However, even though technology requires a swift and dynamic action, as we mentioned before, the human element may fall behind due to a number of variables. So, as such, leaders must possess some soft skills, and I can tell you, they're in no way soft, right? In order to have this kind of influence, to keep pace, to avoid downtime, customer complaints, and revenue. So we have technology doing its thing, moving at super fast speed, but the human element sometimes, especially in leadership, can get lost behind. And this is all across all industries because no matter what it is that you are doing, again, if you're an entrepreneur or you work for an organization, profitability is the key component for the success of any organization. So it's important that the leader, just like the football coach, is able to confidently guide the organization to success. Now, when we look at leadership and influence, we might think, okay, we're talking about technology. We need to get these robots in. We need to get AI doing what it's doing. Why is leadership and influence so important? I mean, we've been talking about technology the whole day. Why is Gaynel here talking about leadership and influence? How does it apply to me? Now, If you Google the word leadership, you're going to find over 760 million results. So I'm here talking about it because people want to know about it. And regardless of what position you hold, it's going to be important because most people don't consider themselves to be good leaders. They think they have to have a title or a position in order to do so. However, we've seen a lot of people with the title and the position who are in no way good leaders, right? Now, we've been talking about leadership a lot. Let us see exactly what it is, right? Now, leadership can be defined as the ability to guide, inspire, and influence a group of people toward achieving a common goal. So it's really the action of leading a group of people or an organization. Now, we talked about the football coach. Let's take it a little bit home where technology is concerned. So, when you have an ICT, a typical ICT team in an organization, especially because I used to be in sales, it's one of the most chill departments, of course, albeit no emergencies. But what you will find, you can walk into an ICT department and you will see the programmer somewhere in the back with his headphones on, focus on the screen, doing his coding and everything. And even when someone enters the room, he may not even see them. Then you'll have your hardware person somewhere with 100 devices on the desk, probably three screwdrivers in his hand, and he's busy going at it with the phone ringing, possibly from a call from a salesperson like myself, trying to get back their laptop in a rush to go and see a client, right? And then there are several other individuals around the department, depending on how lean the organization is, right? But pretty much in an ICT department, everybody knows what to do. So if you're the programmer, if you're the AI person, whatever you are, you pretty much know what to do. Now, when it comes on to a leader in this department, can you imagine if you were to get a leader who was authoritarian in his leadership style? You have to do this, you have to do that, right? Everybody has to come in 5 days a week. No more work from home, right? I'm the new sheriff in town. You have to work on a weekend. It's going to be rostered by the team lead arbitrarily without consultation with the team in terms of their preference. And he basically comes in trying to, be the big boss. And he says, listen, too much overtime is being paid. We're going to cut the cost because he's trying to look good to the organization as some shining star. So if he cuts costs, then clearly, you know, the CEO will be happy with him. But what we know with the ICT department, it's 24 hours, right? If it's an emergency, it's 48 hours a day, right? Because right now, even in Jamaica, where I am, we have this tropical storm, Melissa, that's been coming for almost a week now. She can't get here. Everybody in IT is out there ensuring that the devices are safe, they're secure, the data centers, the backup and recovery procedures are in place. So ICT is not a department that you can really close into a box like this leader that we're talking about. Now, when this person comes with this kind of style, people will follow because he has the title and the position, but they will probably rebel until they find another job. And that's just the truth of the matter, right? What we find is that the capacity that this leader will have is very low. Nobody's going to go above and beyond when it comes to an emergency. Any chance you get, you will try not to be there. And what you find is that their influence is going to be very low. So you will obey up to the point that you have to. But after that, he has no influence. And especially as a trainer, what I've witnessed in organizations across the world is that you will have leaders operating similar to the robots, right? They're insistent on things to be done their way, and it impacts the kind of influence that they have on staff. So when it comes to the soft skills, it's sorely lacking, and it always affects the bottom line. So when we look, especially in large organizations, the bottom line is very critical. And as a result of that, the actions or inactions of the leader can affect it in such a way that it affects everything that takes place. So that is why even in the technological field, leadership and influence is going to be so important. Now, let's take a little look at influence, you know, because we're talking about leadership. Now, what about influence? Why is this so important? What can leaders really do to build their influence? Because if we're saying that influence is so important where leadership is concerned, how is it that if I'm a leader on this call listening right now, what do I have to do to build my influence with the team? So I'll share two things with you. Now, all of us already have influence, right? We all have titles, whether it's mother, wife, husband, children, whatever it is. We wear many hats throughout the day and throughout our lives. And all of us already have some kind of influence. The only question is if that influence is positive or negative, right? So I want you all to think about it while I'm talking, just to have an idea as to the influence you have, who you influence, and how is it that you go about doing that. We have the opportunity to influence others and to increase our influence in order to impact them every interaction we have. So if you're in a conversation, especially for a salesperson, you're trying to sell a product and you realize this person really has a need for your product. You might be in ICT sales and you realize this robotic product is able to help an individual with the need that they have. In persuading them, depending on their response, you are having some level of influence on them and on their decision making. So, influence, when we think about it, is going to be very important, right? So, for starters, you can increase your influence by adding value to others. That's the first thing, right? Now, you might then ask, how do I add value to others? You can do this by helping other persons to achieve their goals and dreams, lifting them up to see themselves in a positive light, right? Now, as leaders, if you lead a department or you lead a team in the technology field, why this is going to be important to you is because in this age of social media, with the proliferation of technology all around us, what you find is that the technology is increasing, but what is also increasing is the negative spill off from that. So you find a lot of people getting depressed. They are comparing themselves to others that they see on social media. They don't think that they're good enough. They're not rich enough. They're not where they need to be in life. They have low self esteem. And then this imposter syndrome starts to set in. Now, technology, again, it's moving at a very fast pace. But at the same time, leaders need to recognize that the human element is important. We can't treat humans like robots. So that is why, as leaders, we have to understand what is taking place, both in the technology field and also in the persons that we have to interact with. And that is why mentoring and coaching is so important for leaders, because leaders really have to understand the makeup of their team. If you have a team of 5 people that you have to manage, for example, each person has a different motivation. And what will motivate me may not motivate somebody else. So it's important to get that one on one. It's easy to say, okay, my leadership style is this, and people need to just accept how I lead. No, some persons may do better at one on ones. You may have them in a meeting and they'll never talk. But when you're with them one on one, they're able to express themselves more. Some persons, you have introverts, you have extroverts, you have so many different generations within the workplace today. So you can't treat a Gen Z like a millennial. And you have to understand each individual on your team, because even in the tech field, that you realize some persons may work from home, especially. That aggravates the situation in the sense that you have to make much more of an effort to understand what they're going through. Because again, they're not just people behind a computer screen coding, right? They are actually human beings. And it's important that we don't treat the person like the product. So that is one way influence is so important for leaders, because if you have somebody that's depressed on your team, it is ultimately going to show in the work and the bottom line. So everything ties in together, and it's so important for us to see that. Now, secondly, when it comes to leaders, how we can increase our influence is by growing ourselves, right? So let's say, for example, I'm the VP for IT at Google. I've pretty much made it. You know, I am where I want to be. I don't need to grow any further. But once you're alive, you're not a tree. You have to grow, right? Now, when we add value to others, we become more valuable. How can we grow? Each day, what we need to do is an honest introspection because we'll come upon some very tough situations throughout the day. And when we're doing this introspection, we have to ask ourselves, what went right? What went wrong? What will we do differently? So, what we don't want to do is find ourselves in some tough situations and repeat the same thing that we did yesterday if the response wasn't right. And even if you gave a good response, there's always room for improvement. So, as leaders, in order to grow others, we have to grow ourselves. So, if I'm leading a team and I haven't read a book in the last 5 years, how is my knowledge and my skill set increasing? If I have somebody on my team that's always reading some book to grow themselves, right? And I'm not reading, how can I grow that person? It's important for us to think about that, right? John Maxwell wrote a book called 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And one of the laws was that you have the law of the rubber band. And of course, when you have a rubber band, you take it and you stretch it. The purpose of a rubber band is to be stretched. So if you have a rubber band and it can't be stretched, it doesn't have a useful purpose. And one of the things that you find is that a mind stretched to a particular capacity can never go back. It can never contract. So when you learn and you grow your skills, you are not able to go back to the person you were before. So you can't unknow what you know. And the more you know is the more you grow. So as leaders, before you can think about growing anybody, whether on your team or anywhere for that matter, even in the field of robotics, AI, technology on a whole, where things are moving at a fast pace. At one time, C, programming language C, was so big. Then it was Java. Then it was something else, right? In the field that you're in, things are always changing. And even though it's a hands on field, it's important for you to read, hear what other persons have experienced across the world that may not be in your particular neck of the woods, and see how it is that you can grow in terms of your knowledge and your skills so you're able to grow others, right? Now, you want to ensure that you pause, reflect, meditate on what is happening. And when you're able to do this, you're able to build your critical thinking skills, your reasonability, and as such, you're able to lead your team in a better way. So, just to wrap up everything, leadership is really about influence, nothing more, nothing less. And in the field of technology that is so fast paced, it is really obvious that good leaders are so hard to find. So, everybody needs to think now, am I a good leader? What does my team think about me? And the point is, sometimes you may think you're a good leader. And if you ask a team member and they say, no, I don't think so, where does that leave you? There's a disconnect. So it's not only important to see how you're perceived by yourself, because we're biased. We're going to think that, I'm the greatest thing ever. But seeing ourselves through the lens of our team members, what do they have to say? Are we that great of a leader that we think we are? Do I have that influence, or are people just following me because I have a title and a position? Do they really want to follow me? Would I follow me if I was not in charge? Right? And if you don't think you're a good leader, no loss, no hope is not lost, because everyone has the capacity to grow to be a good leader. Nobody was born a leader. Persons are born with qualities that predispose them to have certain leadership skills, definitely. But leadership is something that needs to be honed and developed. And good leaders develop other leaders through coaching and mentorship. So we can't give what we don't have. We cannot pour into others if there's nothing within us. You can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to fill your cup, fill yourself as a leader through coaching, mentorship, and everything. And that is how you would be able to have good leadership, and your influence will be known in this age of technology. Thank you so much. That's my time for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. That was really, really good. And a great end to CBF Fest virtual day online. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I don't know. Everybody's in different places in the world, but it's nearly 9 o'clock here in the UK, so it's getting late. I can understand if some people don't want to have any more caffeine to get their brains working. You don't have any more questions. But yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. I will. What I'll do then is we will just quickly join in the next 8 minutes for the final closing session. It'll be very brief, I promise. But thank you for all of that fantastic talk. Thank you so much. All right, awesome. See you guys soon.